Orangs share very few domestic habits with their relations, the gorillas and the chimpanzees of Africa. But they do have this much in common. They build nests in the trees in which to spend the night. Orangs are loners. They never go around in large family parties. It's a miracle how a male ever finds a mate. His best efforts seem to lie in simply calling for one. Almost the only time 2 or 3 orangs are seen together is within a growing family. This immature youngster is still closely attached to its mother, who has another one, a very young baby, clinging to her breast. The larger of the 2 infants is about 3 years old. It'll soon be leaving its mother. She's still remarkably maternal towards it, even though the new baby must be taking most of her attention. The new arrival is quite helpless and can only cling. The 3-year-old will become fully independent in another year and sexually mature at 10. In the reserve, it may eventually live to the age of 30. Most days in the rainforest there's a downpour, if only for a short period. In the rainy season, it's monotonously continuous. The orangutans have an answer to this. Their wiry hair does offer a certain amount of protection. But when this is not enough, they try other methods. In this reserve, there are around 2,000 orangs, a fifth of the world total of perhaps 10,000 in the wild. It's a tiny population at great risk. Although copying the technique of its forest-dwelling relatives, this orangutan is very much not in the wild. He's captive, one of many throughout Indonesia, but nevertheless a potential recruit for the dwindling army of the wild ones in the forest. His days of captivity are over. At Bohorok Rehabilitation Center, they're training captive orangs to become wild again. Monica Borner and Regina Fry are 2 Swiss rehabilitation specialists who run Bohorok Station. Part of their job is to talk the owners of captive orangs into giving up their pets. This ape belongs to the crew of an oil drilling rig. For 40 years, it's been illegal to kill, capture, keep in captivity, or sell an orangutan. But no one has taken much notice of this law until recently. The oil crew got this orang as a baby. Now it has grown too big for comfort. Monica Borner did not even have to persuade them to give it up once they heard of the work of Bohorok Station. Though it's been kept chained up, it's in relatively good condition both physically and mentally. Many orangs that have been kept in small cages or even boxes suffer depressions and complexes that are similar to human mental illnesses. This orang obviously hasn't been shut up. It's ready to go into the box in which it will travel to Bohorok without excessive persuasion. Now it will learn to become a free-living orangutan. One of the problems that the Swiss scientists face is that many illegal orangs are kept as status symbols by high Indonesian officials. General Medelu, police chief for northern Sumatra, saw it as a question of setting an example when he gave up not only a 10-year-old female, but also a youngster from his private collection. While orangutans do quite well in captivity, this is no place for them if they can be free. Nowadays, even the world zoos have agreed not to take any more orangs from the wild. There are already enough in zoos to breed from. In the 3 years that they've been running Bohorok, Monica and Regina have rounded up over 50 orangs. Sometimes negotiations take weeks before they're able to drive away with another candidate for rehabilitation. They make it a rule never to pay, never to bribe, seldom to prosecute, except in the case of dealers who can sell a young orang for as much as £300 on the black market. Sometimes they have a lucky break. Monica spotted this cage in a garden while driving past. It contained a very young baby. The owner of the house had only just moved in. Orang and cage came with the property. He was very happy to hand over the baby, a female less than a year old. She was eventually named Mo for Monica. People find baby orangs irresistible. It's when they grow up that the owners grow tired of their pets, a situation by no means confined to Indonesia. Monica Borner would be the last to claim that she and Regina Fry are the only ones to round up illegal captives. These are wardens of PPA, Indonesia's increasingly active conservation organization. Many of the rescued orangs have been brought to Bohorok by their efforts. This is Suka, and he's 3 years old. Anyone who has worked with orangs soon discovers that they're all individual characters. It's a mile walk from the end of the road to the edge of the forest reserve. The turbulent Bohorok River marks the boundary. The two Swiss scientists are at the landing place to meet the PPA men with their new deliveries. Regina Fry is the first to greet Suka, then Monica Borner. Funds for Bohorok Rehabilitation Center are provided by the Frankfurt Zoological Society. It's also backed by the Worldwide Fund for Nature, and much further support comes from the Indonesian government. The center consists of 2 wooden huts, which the 2 girls designed and built with local timber and labor when they first arrived. This is the ranger post. Next door are the quarantine cages. At first it must seem that the new arrivals have merely exchanged one prison for another. But a 4 to 6 weeks quarantine period is essential. The orangs have been in contact with human beings and exposed to all the germs that afflict them. Orangutans can catch our diseases, including tuberculosis, pneumonia, and even polio. When allowed to roam freely in the forest, these could easily spread to the wild population. This handsome male, named Lubis, has already served most of his time in quarantine. The cages may appear unnecessarily strong, but orangs can escape from pretty well anywhere once they put their mind to it. They're even capable of using wooden planks as levers. They're very strong, but almost invariably gentle. Although these rehabilitation candidates seem to love human contact, they will soon have to learn to do without it. So for the present, they must remain behind bars as a first step towards living wild in the forests. Little Mo is so small she spends the night in a basket in the girls' living hut. The infants are always a problem. Mo, fortunately, is a healthy baby. Regina takes her into the forest for a climbing lesson. Sometimes the young orangs reach Bohorok in very poor shape. Monica nursed this one back to full health, only to see it die later, quite unexpectedly, of pneumonia. It seems ridiculous to have to teach even a very young orang how to climb. The instinct is born in them. But in captivity, their opportunities are so restricted, or they become so dependent on their owners, that they're often unwilling to try. Less than 1 year old, Mo is a very good climber. At first, the 3-year-old Suka was just the opposite. When Monica took him into the forest, he clung tightly to her. When she put him in a tree, he seemed terrified. He scuttled along the ground more like a young gorilla than an orangutan. Suka knew how to climb perfectly well, but much preferred the protection and reassurance Monica gave him. With further training, this situation was to change very soon. After new arrivals are put into the quarantine cages, vaccinations are given. They're rewarded with slices of sweet pawpaw. They're extraordinarily cooperative creatures, making little fuss about their polio and TB jabs. Occasionally, the girls have to seek outside medical help for their charges. They're zoologists, not vets, and a broken jaw calls for skilled surgery. This visit was the result of a curious incident. One day, the young orang Purba kept urging Regina to follow him down a certain forest path. When she finally did so, she found this ape, Olib, lying beneath a tree. Purba and Olib were close companions, and Olib had been missing for nearly 24 hours. He'd fallen out of a tree. His jaw was smashed. Regina took him to the doctor on a large rubber plantation some distance away. Olib submitted quietly to having his jaw x-rayed. Then clips were put in. 6 weeks later, Regina brought him back to the surgery. He lay down quietly, without so much as a cry or a bite, to have the clips taken out. No anesthetic was needed. Olive was as good as new and was soon climbing his way towards freedom again. When handling such endearing animals, Monica and Regina must constantly remind themselves that their task is to free the orangs of human dependence as quickly as possible. And as we shall see, that can be a highly complicated task.